Hello, everybody. The Nameless Narcissist here once again, a simple man diagnosed with NPD, telling you about pathological narcissism and the things that go on in my head. Keep in mind, I am no clinician, so please like, comment, or subscribe. Not or, you don't get a choice. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that crap. I hope. Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm burping. I'm not even going to fix this. Oh my god, I drank water too fast. Ah. Okay. Anyways. So, how do I view people? Right. This is one that's really hard for me to convey. I've tried to convey it in a couple other videos very briefly, but I feel like it's a video that deserves a topic of its own. Because I see shit like, oh, the narcissist hates you and stuff like that. And as people always say to me, hate's a strong word. It's not, but whatever. And it would be, I think even for me, it would be draining if I hated everybody all the time. That hate can be brought on rather easily. I mean, it's easy to project my own self-hate onto other people. But it's not hate that I feel for the masses, right? It's this almost, it's not even, and it's not quite an indifference either. It's almost a, I guess a contempt. Not, that's even a little bit strong. It's it's more of an indifference that easily is turned into a contempt, right? Like I always use this metaphor, but Dr. Todd Grande made such a good metaphor where if bunnies could drive, but they were still just like bunnies, and like a bunny's car was parked somewhere, and you actually accidentally hit that bunny's car, you'd kind of be annoyed that that bunny's car was there and that bunnies existed in general, or that bunny in particular existed in general. It's like this. It's like they're. It's just the. It's like they're worthless. I get not worthless. They're just insignificant, and so anything that happens against me, whether it be their fault or not, is immediately Imagine stubbing your toe, right? And you get really angry at the desk, even though that for no reason you should be angry at the desk. The desk didn't fucking do anything to you. It's like that, but with people. That's a great analogy, actually. Because it's just this kind of annoyance that this thing exists, and that by consequence of it existing and your actions, that it hurt you. And that's why some narcissists have this knee-jerk, I do too, just this knee-jerk reaction to blame other people when something goes wrong. This has happened all the time, in my life, where say your car breaks down, right? And I look at somebody and I'm like, what did you do? Or once I was in the car with my friend, and we were at this intersection, and it was a two-way stop, but there was four stop signs. Well, I thought it was a two-way stop. And we come up to the stop sign, and I'm like, which way do we go from here? And he's like, I think we go straight. We were supposed to go left. I didn't realize that until afterwards. But I go, and since I didn't look both ways because I thought it was a four-way stop, I got hit, and I was like, motherfucker, my mom's going to kill me. So we run out of the car and make sure the guy's all right, and I immediately go for a second, being like, you told me it was straight. If you would have told me the right direction, then we wouldn't be in the blah blah blah. Eventually, I calmed down, and then he was all like, oh, well, hey, he's like, there's another car coming, and if we try to go that way, that would have been worse. I'm like, fuck you, man, no, it wasn't. But yeah, that's a good example of how just out of nowhere, knee-jerk, and I just blame them for things because of how little I view people, how beneath me I view them. But then it becomes a little bit more interesting when people have relationships with narcissists, when we are in relationships with people, we obviously have this tendency to project our good qualities, but also idealize them for the qualities that we envy. And in this way, it's like a expansion of our narcissism. For example, if I have somebody in my life and I am idealizing them, it's oh, you are great, but you are a part of me by being associated with me, right? And so that makes me even better. I mentioned that in one of my videos, actually. Or when you devalue, and then alternatively though, and this is really interesting that some psychoanalytic people pointed out, so I'm not really sure how accurate it is, but they say that the reason that narcissists can be so controlling when we devalue people so much is that when we project our negative qualities onto them to view them lower as us, they still represent aspects of ourselves that have to be controlled. Because I mean, when somebody, if you were to like lose a hand, and it obviously this is a little bit of extrapolation because this is an identity-based thing, but if you were to lose a hand, you'd be pretty damn distressed, even if you didn't like that hand that much, right? Even if like there's a part of you that is defective, if you lose it, like you'll probably lose your mind. So in that way, I have to basically, in that way, they have to be controlled so it doesn't feel like parts of my identity are being pulled away. I also want to touch on the idea that like since this is hierarchical, there are people like people can very easily be kind of included in my narcissism. This can even take the form in like, for example, nationalism is effectively a and I'm not making a political statement here. This is just an observation that nationalism is effectively a group narcissism, right? For them, it's probably not on a pathological level, but you can kind of see how that manifests. If you look at, like, for my YouTube viewers, for instance, I have a tendency to include you in my narcissism. You guys are a part of me now. Congratulations. When I would call it, like, this is the best community ever, blah, 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 blah. By this being a group that I am a part of, and, you know, ostensibly what the group is around, I guess you can make the argument that's more around narcissism than me. I think it's me. that, like, this is an easy way to include people in my narcissism and then become, you know, part of me in that weird way that metaphorically I was using. Also, there is the tendency to view people as the people that aren't close to me and aren't involved in my narcissism, to view them as just a means to an end. In therapy, there are specific transference patterns that happen, and transferences are basically when, in therapy, you project your feelings towards your parents onto the therapist and work out those feelings that way. There's specific transferences that happen for narcissists, because generally the therapist will note that they're like, there isn't a transference happening because we are projecting aspects of ourselves, which is super interesting, right? We don't project our parents, we project us. Which kind of makes sense given parts of our personality are effectively like idealized portions of our parents and everything. So there's 3 types. And using people as tools would be the 3rd one, then this is just an example. So the first one is basically the therapist is devalued and there's almost a tyrannical rule over them, which, you know, whatever. There is a second one, which is idealizing them, and it's like, oh, but I'm a part of you, therefore I am great, yada, yada, yada. It's like, you're the best therapist ever, you're amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then the 3rd one was actually the transference that I had, where it wasn't even I was projecting onto this person. It was that this is a person, a tool, effectively, that is helping me psychoanalyze myself, more or less. This person is used as a method in which I can help myself because of this fierce need for independence and a fierce need to not rely on people, which effectively is the reason that these specific transferences happen, because we have this overwhelming need to not be dependent on people, to not feel like we are, you know, dependent. Still, I can't think of any other word, because that would imply weakness, lack of effectiveness, inferiority, at least in our heads. I'm not saying that that's a reality, but in our heads, that's what it feels like. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, even when I was a kid, I would have this very stark attitude of like, I don't fucking rely on anybody, I don't need anybody, blah, 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 blah. You'll hear narcissists say that all the time. How do I experience that, though? I'm trying to think more, because, like, I'll say it all the time, but I'm like, what does that feel like? It feels shameful, effectively. It's like, oh, I need somebody, like, I am disgusted with myself for needing anybody. How can I be this pathetic? Is kind of like the inner monologue that goes on when something like that happens. There's some people who are pathologically narcissistic that don't view it quite like that, but this is more of a traditional presentation of it, because some can be very dependent because they can, as I said before, idealize the person and feel like they are a part of that person. For me, it's idealizing them, making them a part of me, but, you know, whatever. Anyways, hope that makes sense. Take your fucking meds.